I'm Spider-Man. Spider-Man Homecoming is directed by John Watts, written by John Watts and Christopher Ford, and it stars Tom Holland, Michael Keaton, Marisa Tomei, Zendaya, among others, and this tells the story of Spider-Man. Of course, we are not going back to Uncle Ben. We are not going back to the spider that bit Peter Parker. We are seeing Peter Parker in high school. We are following his life. We are seeing him deal with the drama of having to be a normal teenager, of having to go to the school for gifted people, and he has to deal with being Spider-Man, especially after the events of Civil War. Of course, this movie happens within the MCU, so there are lots of references. References that are not only connected to our hero, but genuinely and organically written well into the story. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I have reviewed the first 3 movies from the Raimi trilogy. I grew up with a TV show from the 90s, and I love that show. It's the best Spider-Man show I've ever seen, and I grew up with the comics. And seeing this movie was special to me. I am so thankful for this movie. We'll get to if it is the best Spider-Man movie or not. But Tom Holland breeds this character. He is so good playing Peter Parker. He looks like Peter Parker. He acts like Peter Parker. He talks like Peter Parker. His mannerisms, his twitches in his eyes, the way he speaks, everything is Peter Parker with Tom Holland. Not only is it Peter Parker, it is Spider-Man. You see the more genuine, naive, and innocent side of Spider-Man in this movie. You get to see him doing all sorts of stuff. Riding a train just to get faster to somewhere where there aren't a lot of buildings around. You get to see him helping old people crossing the street. And you get to see Spider-Man doing those simple yet genuine acts of kindness around New York City. He's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And you see him having fun with that, but you also see that Peter Parker suffers in his academic life because of that. This is an incredible coming-of-age story, a genuine, lighthearted, funny, and dramatic teen drama, and it is an incredible superhero origin movie. A superhero origin movie because before this, Peter Parker only did those things like riding the train, helping people crossing the street and whatnot. This is the first time Peter Parker is fighting a villain that is the Vulture, played by Michael Keaton. And let me tell you this, Marvel in the same year has put out 2 great villains for the universe. Yes, I know the movie's Sony, but it's within the MCU, and the MCU in 2017 has gathered 2 awesome villains for its calendar. And the Vulture is awesome. He's just an incredible character and an incredible villain. You can really get behind this guy. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the movie starts right away with this guy. You get to see his reasoning. He was just a blue-collar guy trying to make a living, and he was screwed over by higher powers that I'm not going to say anything about, and so he decided to, well, I'm going to go the life of crime. And that is realistic in the sense that you can see why this man felt so desperate. He doesn't have necessarily remorse about going into the life of crime because he sees reason within it. And the best villains are the ones who think they are the heroes. They are the ones who think they are doing something right. And Michael Keaton and his team, they do believe they are doing something right. And Michael Keaton is very sinister in this film. He is so creepy at points, and I love the Vulture. I love the action scenes with the Vulture. I love the update that they give to the suit to not be too silly. Just literally a suit, it has feathers, and he flies. No, the suit is mechanic and all, you've seen it from the trailers, but there's a lot more to it. Even the helmet and all, it's just really well done. And I love the way this movie captures the John Hughes teenage movie vibe from the 80s. This movie completely feels like a movie from the 80s within its narrative. The narrative beats and all, they are very fresh, but they are familiar. But within that familiarity, they do things that you might not expect, especially things that you are not expecting and that you haven't seen in a Spider-Man movie. This is a Spider-Man movie completely different from any other Spider-Man movie. You have not seen these things in Spider-Man films before. But the movie does know it. The movie knows that it's taking things out of movies in terms of a narrative and in terms of themes that you've seen before. And the movie acknowledges it and embraces it throughout. You are laughing at one moment, and I cannot spoil it, but Peter Parker is running at one point, and you think of a movie that you've seen that exact shot in, and then the movie tells you that yes, we know that you've seen that shot in that movie. Really, the comedy in this movie is magnificent. There are a lot of moments that you belly burst laugh out loud. I genuinely and one of the best times of the year watching this film. The comedy is fantastic. It comes from the situation that characters find themselves in. It comes from stuff they say and that you think that they would naturally say to each other. The way they react to some things they see or some things they hear. The way they communicate with each other. The teenagers in this movie, for instance, talk like teenagers. They say swear words every now and then, and they interact with each other like teenagers. Peter Parker has a lot of stuff going on. He has to deal with his best friend finding out he is Spider-Man. And this guy is really funny. I can understand if some of you come to the comment section and say, he got annoying. I can get behind that. I completely understand. To me, he didn't. He completely did it for me. He was just great in this film. And Aunt May also feels very 80s like. She's the youngest Aunt May, but again, the movie knows it is. The movie knows she's the youngest Aunt May ever, and it has fun with that. The movie knows she's the hottest Aunt May ever, and the movie acknowledges and gives funnies to that. You will laugh a lot in this movie. But the drama is also there, especially in the themes of this movie. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the theme of this movie is beautiful, and it fits Spider-Man perfectly. Again, I cannot spoil, but how they handle the thematic of this film is very fitting for Spider-Man, and it's kind of beautiful. Especially because it is not the first iteration of Spider-Man we've seen in theaters, and it becomes sorta like a meta thing for the movie to give to the audience, and it felt very rewarding and very fresh. For those wondering if this is Iron Man 4, it isn't. Tony Stark has 3 appearances in this film, and their total sum of time on screen are probably 15 minutes. Maybe not even that. Maybe 10. Just don't worry about Tony Stark. He is organically inserted into the film. I love Tony Stark and Peter Parker interacting with each other, but the character that gives another heartbeat to this film is Happy Hogan. He gives genuine heart to this film. I love the role he had to play in it, and it felt very cathartic as well that this guy would come back as Spider-Man is coming back home. There's not much I can say about Zendaya without spoiling, but I will tell you that she is not in the movie that much. Her character does play an important role, especially come the end, but that's all I can say. And Liz was also very good. The actress, I don't know her name, but she is very good, and she is that type of girl that why would she have any interest in Peter Parker? That's what you think while you're watching the movie, but also she has this very good girl next door quality to her, and she seems very simple with that. She doesn't seem very above anyone else, and she doesn't see herself that way either. And you also see her caring for her friends and caring for stuff they do together, so that brings a lot of dimension to the character that I really appreciated. I thought the action scenes were extremely exhilarating and vibrant, and they felt fresh, and they were dynamic, and the CGI looks unbelievably great. But the action scenes always hinge on how Spider-Man is dealing with them. The perspective in the action scenes is always, how is Spider-Man dealing with this, and what does this mean to his character, and how he is going to get away from this? And that is very good drama beats to the narrative. I love that they did that. I love the focus that this movie has on the character, on the world he is surrounded with. Because he's trying to get back into the Avengers, he's trying to tell Tony Stark that he's ready for the Avengers, and I can't say anything more, but that goes into the thematic of the film, and it's beautiful. It's genuinely beautiful. This movie is chock full of Easter eggs that I will get into in the spoilers review, but barely any scene goes by where this movie doesn't acknowledge the comics, or the TV shows, or maybe other Spider-Man movies? Who knows? And maybe some other versions of Spider-Man. I'll get to into the spoilers review. And the movie does hold a lot of surprises that I was not expecting. This movie takes a lot of turns that seriously surprised me. I will get into this in the spoilers review, but there is one moment, without spoiling. You know how you're coming down a roller coaster sometimes and your heart sinks? Spider-Man is fighting the Shocker, then something happens and my heart goes brrr. Oh my god, I want to get into this in the spoilers review. What Spider-Man Homecoming does, this is a movie that reminds you why you love a character so much. And that is rare. And this is one of those movies. This is one of those rare occasions that a movie comes on and you're like, all this on screen is exactly why I love the character of Spider-Man. Thank you, movie. Spider-Man Homecoming is cleverly, intelligently written. It has a lot of good beats to it. A very good balance of comedy, drama, and action and superhero story mix in there, and it does it beautifully. Peter Parker is born once again in the skin of Tom Holland, and there is so much that he gives to the character. He really is the true heart of this movie. Tom Holland carries this movie, and he carries it perfectly. The direction is also great, as well as the cinematography. The colors in this movie are vibrant and straight out of Steve Ditko's mind. Spider-Man Homecoming is the deserving welcome home party that Spider-Man deserves. It is one of the best films of the year. It is my number 2, and it is definitely one you must see if you love Spider-Man. A very welcome addition into the MCU, and it is the stuff that dreams are made of. Not to say that this is better than Spider-Man 2, that is the only thing I'm still not sure about. But what did you think of Spider-Man Homecoming? I know I'm probably reviewing this very soon, so let me know, what are you expecting from Spider-Man Homecoming? Thank you so much for watching, my beautiful geekies. You guys are the freaking best. I'm so happy that I could give you this review with my Spider-Verse shirt on. And until Sunday with my Rise of the Planet of the Apes Geek Classic review, you stay beautiful, you stay geeky, and if you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button and the bell so we can be geeky united!